Hey saddle hunters, thanks for tuning into the channel here to watch another video. In today's video, we're going to look at a saddle that I've had in my hands for a couple of months now. I've really had the opportunity to put some time in it, and I have been very, very impressed. This saddle brings some features and some ingenuity to the market that we haven't seen yet, which is becoming a harder and harder thing for me to say. So I was really excited when I had the opportunity to look at this saddle. It's from one of my favorite companies, just a group of great guys. This is the Custom Gear Modifications Cobra. You may remember last year I reviewed the Sidewinder, which was their first entrance into the saddle market. And it was a single panel saddle. The Cobra is similar in that it can fold down and have that kind of rigger's belt construction, but it opens up. So now there's a pleat inside of it. It's a double pleat. We're going to talk all about the features of this saddle and some of the just statistics to get started. And then I'm going to take it outside, show you guys how it functions, and give you my thoughts from the tree. So let's jump in and get started here. All right, so if you're familiar with the Sidewinder, this will look strikingly similar. It has that same kind of snake pattern molly webbing on the top, which is just kind of a cool look to it. But it obviously has some differences. So let's talk about some of the stats here. This saddle, when it's kind of folded up here in what they call rigger's belt mode, is 5 inches from top to bottom. And the saddle weighs about 30 ounces. There are 2 sizes. The first size goes up to 36-inch waist, and then the second size is for anybody above 36. This is the smaller of the two, comes in at 30 ounces. So right there, pretty close to where everything else is. I'm going to compare this to the Cruiser XC just for comparison's sake, because a lot of people know about that saddle and it's one of my favorites of all time. I have a size 1, which goes up to 33-inch waist, and that comes in at 26 ounces. So a size 2 is probably going to be a couple ounces heavier, so not a whole lot of difference in weight between this and the Cruiser. So let's talk about the dimensions of the saddle. Like I said, it's 5 inches from top to bottom in rigger's belt mode. If you open it up, which is very easy, you just undo that little G-hook there and it opens up all the way. It basically has the same footprint as the Sidewinder. It's just a little bit longer from bridge loop to bridge loop. This saddle from bridge loop to bridge loop is about 39 inches. For comparison's sake, the XC is about 36 in the size 1. So a little bit wider here, bridge loop to bridge loop. From the top of the saddle to the bottom of the saddle with the pleats collapsed is 13.5 inches. Now, if I were to open up one side of the pleat, you add another 3 inches or so, and so it's about 16.5. And if I open up both pleats, it is 19 inches. One of the neat things about this saddle is that they have kind of these ladder locks on the side that you can pull them down and keep the saddle kind of in a traditional saddle configuration, or you can open those up and really allow the saddle to separate between these two, the two main parts of the chassis, which is nice because it allows it to be wide enough to go around your hip bone and pretty much eliminate most hip pinch. So that's a super nice feature that we've never seen before. A lot of spacing. There are other companies that have similar features that accomplish the same thing, but this design is something unique that we haven't seen before. So that's really, really cool. So from top to bottom, when it's totally open, like I said, you're looking at about a 19-inch pleat on this particular one. Now, the website says that they can go 22 or larger. So it all depends really on what size you're getting. So tons of real estate. And just for comparison's sake, the Cruiser is 12 inches when it's closed, and then you add about 2.5 inches per pleat, so it opens up to 17. So here, even with this particular one, you're about 2 inches wider in the body of the saddle than with the Cruiser XC. So very cool, from a lot of flexibility as far as sizing goes on when just one saddle. And the pleats are nice. They stay open. I'll show you guys that a little bit when we get outside, but they just stay where you want them to be. So that's a super nice feature. Let's talk a little bit about cost. One of the nice things about CGM is that they don't make products cheaply. All the stuff is third-party tested and insured, as any saddle should be. and yet they're able to, you know, offer these to consumers at very competitive prices. This is coming in at $225. So that's super, super nice. Of course, since they're called custom gear modifications, you have a lot of options that you can pick from, and you can ask them to change really anything on the saddle to something that you might desire a little bit more. But for their stock configurations, they offer 3 different belts. This right here is the 6mm TRC rope belt. They also have an Amsteel rope belt, and then they have a 1-inch webbing belt with a 15 kilonewton frame buckle. And all of them are $225. So that's super, super nice. Let me put it on the table. I'll just kind of walk you guys through some of the features real quick, and then we'll jump outside and into the tree.
All right, guys, here's the 2-minute rundown of the features of the CGM Cobra. You can see it has a reinforced bridge loop, which is done very, very nicely. Amsteel prusik to attach to the Oplux bridge. That holds both on the Oplux and on the bridge loop very, very well. Coming down here, you'll see the gear loop is now a little bit larger than it was on the Sidewinder, so that's much appreciated. 1 row of Molly, this particular one has the snake pattern, and then you have the lineman loop right here, which is very stiff, stays in place, easy to find. I like that a lot. Here's probably the most unique feature of the saddle. These ladder locks, which allow you to tighten up and change the angle of basically the chassis of the saddle. So you can see with it very, very tight there, the 2 main chassis points are close together. If I open that up, I have tons of adjustability. I can spread those very, very far apart to get the chassis away from my hip bones. So that's a really new and fantastic feature, something we've never seen before. You can see here, if I open that up, just kind of how the pleat works and the different materials that it is made out of. You can see here, this is a seam. I'll mention that seam later, but when I first got the saddle, I could feel that seam, but it seems to have broken in and I don't notice it as much over time. So that's kind of a look at the pleat. Coming down here, you can see the connection to turn the saddle into the rigger's belt mode. All of this is removable, so you can take the leg straps off, you can take that G-hook off and run the saddle without it if that's a feature you're not going to use. But basically, that is an overview of the CGM Cobra. Let's flip it around so you can look at the inside. Of course, made in the USA. Gotta like that. There's a channel for the belt here, so you can run a variety of different belts, whatever your personal preference is. So, fantastic saddle, guys. Let me take it outside now. We're gonna put it on the tree, and I'm gonna show you how I use it.
All right, guys, we're outside with the CGM Cobra. It's a little windy today, so if you hear a little wind noise, just bear with me. It shouldn't be too horrible, though. I'm gonna put the saddle on, show you guys kind of how the features work, and then we'll jump on this tree right next to me, and I'll kind of talk you through how I like to use this saddle. So, as I mentioned earlier, mine has the rope belt. Obviously, that doesn't open, neither does the Amsteel, so you gotta step through the thing. I don't mind stepping through my saddles. It doesn't bother me at all. Pull the saddle up. These rope bridges are super, super nice. You hold on to the leftmost knot, pull the one on the right, and then you have the ability, because there's that kind of channel in the back of the saddle for it to move through, you can move that knot wherever you want it to go. Now, I like the TRC, but I really like the Amsteel version that I had on the Sidewinder. It was just so much more minimalistic. You had the same kind of easy ability to tighten it or to loosen it, but you didn't have these knots to deal with. But as you can see, it gets tight. You can position it wherever you want. Just tuck in the tag end. Then you've got the leg straps. Reach down, hook those onto the loops on the bottom edge of the saddle. I don't have a lot of extra length in the leg loops, which I was kind of surprised about. So if you're a bigger guy, you might want to tell them to err on the large size. But then again, when it's in the rigger's belt mode, you have 2 options. You can run them like normal, but because the saddle's up so high, obviously you have less length to work with. Now, if your thighs are just bigger and you find that in this you run out of strap, the other option is to take it and to run it behind your leg, which is much more comfortable for walking in, but then when you get to the bottom of the tree, obviously you've got to, got something in my head there. Obviously you've got to change
change it up and move them back to the front. So I'm going to leave one undone and one strapped and just kind of walk back and forth. I walked extensively in this saddle. Obviously, you can feel the strap more than when it's not around your leg at all, but I don't find it to be all that bothersome. Personally, though, I do like to run all my straps just on the back. I like them out of the way. So that's the saddle in rigger's belt mode. Let me just hook this up real quick. I'll show you guys how the profile in the back. I found that it stays in place nicely. You're not going to find many saddles on the market that wear in as well as this. There's a couple that I would throw out there. The stuff made by Dryad wears in very, very well. The Latitude wears in very well. But this is just so minimalistic. It is right at the top as far as a saddle that's comfortable to wear in. So I'll just mention that. You can see here, this size fits me perfectly. The lineman loops are right there, kind of on the point of my hips where I like them. They don't stick out too far. They have enlarged these top kind of gear loops, which I like. You know, you can store extra carabiners and things there. Those are really nice. And then they have the rappel loop on the bottom, and I love that feature. If you're a one-stick climber and you're rappelling, that's a fantastic feature where you can use it for an auto block or something like that. So great feature. They have the side adjusters. I like to have them pulled in all the way when I am walking in. It just helps to keep the saddle real tidy. So now that I've got it, this is kind of how I would wear it in other than the bridge. I like to take the bridge, just pull it through. You can see how easy it moves on that am steel, and then you can just tuck the tag end or wrap it around yourself. So you have a very compact package when it's like this. So now let's say I've walked in, I'm at my tree, ready to climb them up. First thing I'm going to do is deploy the panel. That's real easy. You just feel around. He's given a little bit more room on this one in this loop up top here. So you just pull it out, you drop it, and then grab your leg straps, follow them up, move them to the front. And I'll show you how much more length I have now that I've dropped that saddle in the back. So you can see how loose that is now. Plenty of extra tag end. There's no way to wrap that up, but it's not a crazy extra amount, so I haven't found it to be bothersome all that much. So there's the saddle. I'm going to lower it just a smidge, and then I'll be ready to climb. So I wanted to show you guys, before I climb up the tree here, kind of how to fold up the saddle at the end of the day, so to speak, how easy it is to use. So all I'm going to do is turn around and close the pleats. You can see I've got both the pleats closed. I'm going to pull on kind of these ladder locks, cinch those down, and then I'm going to just grab the bottom of the saddle and pull it up. Without even looking, you can just kind of put your finger through that loop, feed the G-hook in there. I'm ready to go. I can take my bridge now, cinch it down, tuck it in, and I'm ready to walk out of the woods. It's that easy. This saddle goes from hunting mode to walking mode very, very easily. So let's jump in the tree. I'll show you how I use it to lean and to sit. All right, so now that I'm up here in the tree, let me talk you through how I have found it comfortable to lean in this saddle and to sit in that saddle. I like to have the bottom pleat closed and the top pleat open for leaning, and I like to have probably 1.5 to 2 inches of, you know, the reinforced area of the bridge loops kind of viewable before the start of the prusik. And that just seems to give me really balanced pressure. I have the top strap right about at the top of my iliac crest, but I don't get any pressure there. And then my hip bone's falling right here in the middle, so no pressure from the strap on my hip bones. And I have found this to be quite comfortable for leaning. Obviously, with a saddle like this, where you can adjust the bridge, you know, length, and you can adjust the prusik knot, you know, on the bridge loops, you can play with it a lot to dial in your comfort, and I'd recommend that you do so. Now, let me talk about sitting for a little bit. obviously for sitting to me is where the rubber meets the road, so to speak, when it comes to saddles. Most saddles you can lean in fairly comfortably. You can't do it with every saddle out there for sitting. And everybody sits a little bit differently. So for my style of sitting, what I have found to be comfortable in this saddle is to open the entire thing up, both pleats, and to move the bridge, you know, more toward the center of the loops. So let me do that now. I'm going to stand up and bring this down, you know, probably an inch or so toward the center of the reinforced part of the bridge. And then I'm just going to open the pleat. Now I want you to see how easy it is to open the pleats. I'm just going to hold the top of the saddle, grab the bottom, and pull, and it opens, but it doesn't spring back closed on me. It's just really good. I also like to have the saddle just slightly lower on my body for when I sit into it. I'm going to let a little bit of tether length out. Usually only takes an inch or inch and a half for me. Yeah, right about there, I think would be good. Now, obviously, I have moved this lower, so here's the top of my iliac crest now, so it's just slightly lower than the top of my iliac crest. And I get a little bit of pressure from this bottom strap, and if I wanted to change that some, I'm just going to finagle up the bridge loop maybe a 1/4 of an inch. Yeah, that's a lot less pressure. You can see those little adjustments making a big difference. So I could sit in this saddle for a long time like this. And it's easy to kind of manipulate the saddle because it's so large if you want to make some minor adjustments. So you can see I can just grab this bottom strap and push it. And because of that mesh, I can kind of just change where the pressure falls. That actually feels good with it a little bit closer up to my body there. So that's the nice thing about a big saddle is that you can manipulate the fabric to kind of whatever your body size is. So I like this saddle. One of the things you'll notice when you sit in it at first is kind of where I think this is, you know, you got webbing and then this other material. I'm not sure quite what it is, but right where they meet, there's a seam. And you can feel the seams underneath you when you first buy this saddle. One of the things I've noticed is that it seems like the saddle breaks in a little bit. And those from your body weight in those seams kind of get a little bit softer. And I've noticed that the more I've used this saddle, I just can't feel those as much. So if that's something you feel when you first experience this saddle, stick it out. It goes away pretty quick. Matter of, you know, a handful of hours, and you won't be feeling that anymore. All right, so let me show you how the rappel loop works. I'm going to throw in some kind of B-roll footage right now, me and the Sidewinder, just showing you how to use this rappel loop. It's a very cool function and something that I enjoy having on a saddle. If you don't rappel or you use a safeguard or some other mechanical device that's not backed up from below, then you can use this just for a gear clip. And I am a big fan of the tighter molly with a few gear loops on a saddle. So this is just perfect for what I'm looking for in a saddle. Overall, guys, this is a really good saddle. The leg straps aren't uncomfortable at all when I'm in the tree. I hardly even notice they're there. I've had them fall off a time or two when I'm, you know, manipulating the saddle, and I don't know, that's just a feature of saddle with G-hooks, I think. It's just going to happen. So something to keep an eye on. You don't want those to fall off. You know, if they slip out, then it's dangling below you when you're moving around the tree, and you know, if you get a deer's going to see that. So you just want to be cognizant of that. One suggestion maybe I'd make to CGM is to figure out how to close that on there, maybe use some closed gate G-hook, something like that. But guys, this is a really good saddle, and at $225 for all the features that you get, one of the best bang for the bucks on the market. I'd put it right up there with most any other single panel saddle, expandable pleated single panel saddle that I've ever used. It's just a really good design that gives you a lot of functionality, and the guys at CGM are great. Once again, guys, this saddle is third-party tested. They're insured. This is not, even though it's kind of a mom and pop company, they do their hard homework, so to speak,
to make sure that the saddles going out the door are quality products, and it's just a stand-up company, guys. I would recommend this saddle to you heartily if you're looking for a pleated design. It's supremely comfortable and gives you a lot of options just with the footprint size of it. So thanks for watching this review. I appreciate your support. Stay tuned. I've got a lot of videos coming here in the next couple of months.